Studies show that after the age of 12, the human brain physically restructures itself in ways that make acquiring a new accent feel nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. But not actually impossible. And the difference between those two words is where everything interesting begins. Welcome to Lang Bridge. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to understand exactly how accent reduction works at a neurological and muscular level, why most people approach it completely wrong, and the one insight that professional accent coaches rarely share publicly because it reframes everything their clients think they know about the process. We will also cover why your ears need to be trained before your mouth ever opens, and why that order matters more than anything else you will do. To understand how accent reduction works, you first need to understand what an accent actually is. Most people think an accent is simply a collection of sounds. It is not. An accent is a complete motor program. When you speak your native language, you are executing thousands of micromuscle movements involving your tongue, lips, jaw, soft palate, and even your larynx, all happening automatically, all happening faster than conscious thought. These movements were programmed into your body between the ages of 0 and roughly 12 years old. After that window closes, your brain stops treating new speech sounds as targets to acquire. It starts treating them as noise to filter out. This is why a Japanese speaker learning English still produces the same predictable patterns after 20 years of study. It is not a lack of intelligence or effort. It is because the motor program for Japanese phonology is locked in, and the brain is actively suppressing the new input to protect what it already knows works. The accent is not in the mouth. The accent is in the nervous system. Now here is where the history of accent reduction becomes fascinating. Formal accent training has existed for centuries, primarily in the world of theater. British actors in the 19th century were trained using elocution methods that focused almost entirely on vowel precision and resonance placement. The idea was that speech quality reflected social class, and the stage required a kind of neutral, elevated voice. These methods were effective, but they were designed for performance, not for everyday communication. They trained people to perform an accent, not to internalize one. The modern science of accent reduction emerged in the mid-20th century alongside advances in phonetics and later neuroscience. Researchers like Peter Ladefoged at UCLA spent decades mapping the phonetic inventories of hundreds of languages and dialects, giving us the first real framework for understanding exactly which sounds differ between any two languages. This work became the foundation of what we now call contrastive analysis, the process of identifying precisely where two phonological systems diverge. That is the first true tool of scientific accent reduction. But here is what nobody talks about when they explain contrastive analysis. Knowing which sounds are different is almost useless if you cannot hear the difference first. And this is where most learners completely stall. They jump straight into production, trying to make new sounds without having trained their auditory cortex to distinguish those sounds reliably. Research from the University of British Columbia found that adults who received perceptual training, meaning training focused purely on listening and identifying sounds, before attempting production training showed significantly faster and more durable accent changes than those who went straight to speaking practice. The ears come first. Always. So what does perceptual training actually look like? It involves exposing yourself to minimal pairs, which are words that differ by only one sound, such as ship and sheep in English, or the French words vu and beau. You listen, you identify, and you get immediate feedback. Over hundreds of repetitions, your auditory cortex builds new categories. It starts filing sounds that were previously identical into separate mental folders. Once those folders exist, your motor system has an actual target to aim for. Without the folders, you are shooting in the dark. This is the point where the real mechanics of muscle training enter the picture. Once your ear can reliably distinguish a new sound, the work of physical production begins. And this is genuinely physical work. The human vocal tract contains roughly 100 muscles involved in speech production. Many of the positions required for sounds in a second language have never been used by those muscles in that precise configuration. You are not just learning a new habit. You are building new muscle memory from scratch. Research published in the Journal of Speech, Language, and Hearing Research found that meaningful articulatory change requires between 300 and 500 repetitions of a new sound in a controlled, focused practice environment before that sound begins to feel natural in isolation. In connected speech, the number climbs significantly higher because sounds change shape depending on what surrounds them. The word button does not contain the same T sound as the word top. The word head does not contain the same vowel as the word head when spoken quickly in a sentence. This phenomenon, called co-articulation, means you are not just learning sounds in isolation. You are learning sounds in systems. Professional accent coaches break this work into 3 distinct phases. The first phase is isolation, where a learner practices a single sound repeatedly in a controlled, slow, exaggerated way. The second phase is transfer, where that sound is practiced in syllables, then words, then short phrases, gradually increasing speed. The third phase is integration, where the learner works to use the sound naturally in spontaneous conversation without conscious monitoring. Most people who attempt accent reduction on their own spend almost all of their time in phase 1, practicing sounds in isolation, and then wonder why those sounds disappear the moment they have a real conversation. The jump from isolation to integration is enormous, and it requires dedicated bridging work. But here is what nobody talks about regarding the integration phase. It is deeply uncomfortable in a way that has nothing to do with muscles or neurons. When you change how you speak, you change how you sound to yourself, and you change how others perceive you. Research on identity and language from sociolinguist Leslie Milroy showed that speakers unconsciously adjust their accent based on social context, group membership, and emotional state. This means that even after a learner successfully builds new motor programs, they will often revert to their original accent patterns when stressed, emotional, or speaking with family. The accent is tied to identity, and the brain uses it as a social signal. This is why the most effective accent reduction programs now incorporate what is called style-shifting training. Rather than trying to eliminate an accent completely, learners are trained to move fluidly between their native accent and their target accent depending on the context. A French executive giving a presentation in English needs to access different phonological settings than when they are calling their mother. Style-shifting training acknowledges that accent is social, contextual, and identity-laden, not just mechanical. And this reframing dramatically increases long-term success rates. There is also compelling evidence that emotional engagement accelerates accent acquisition. A study from MIT found that words and sounds learned in emotionally charged or personally meaningful contexts were retained significantly better than those learned in neutral drills. This is why shadowing, the practice of listening to and simultaneously mimicking native speakers in real conversations, tends to outperform traditional drilling for advanced learners. Shadowing connects the sounds to meaning, to rhythm, to emotional context. It trains the whole communicative system, not just the articulatory mechanism. The final piece that ties all of this together is the role of feedback. The human brain cannot self-correct what it cannot accurately monitor, and most people cannot accurately hear their own speech production. We hear ourselves partly through air conduction and partly through bone conduction, which is why recordings of your own voice sound so foreign to you. Professional accent coaches serve largely as external feedback systems, pointing out discrepancies between what a learner produces and what they intend to produce. Modern technology is beginning to fill this role through AI-driven pronunciation tools that can analyze acoustic data and provide real-time corrective feedback, making professional-level training more accessible than ever before. Accent reduction, done correctly, is a convergence of neuroscience, motor learning, auditory training, and identity work. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Lang Bridge for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.